I've heard that in India, you grow up with a lot of literature and poetry and this kind of English in the way that you're
Mhm.
taught. Is this true?
Yeah, wait, is that not how it's taught in other countries? I never, oh my God. I remember, I mean, as a kid, my mom used to take my tenses lessons, and I absolutely hated that. And she would ask me like, okay, like just fill it in, like what would be the correct grammar sentence. And I'd be speaking the correct grammar sentence, and she'd be like, okay, but why? And I wouldn't have an idea. I would be like, I don't know, it just sounds right. And she just never really understood how I got the answers right, but I wouldn't know how. So yeah, that's
It's
because I
nice way
think
to.
I was going through a Japanese vlog, and he was at a convenience store and there was no employee at all. So it was all,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he went to a ramen place and it was the machine that
Yep.
gave him, prepared the ramen and gave it to him. I'm confused. I don't know what happened. So there was no human contact at all.
Yeah. They love it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. And I mean, I've been here for, 17 years now. And in that time, I've noticed it become even more and more and more like
Hmm.
this. Of course, because of the technology, but also I think because there is a genuine sense of introversion where
Yes.
people, yeah, like
Yeah.
just, yeah. I know that, my husband is Japanese, for example, and he's always telling me, "Oh, relax, relax, you're working too hard." And I'm like, "What do you mean working? I'm not working, I'm talking to some friends." But
Yeah.
he feels I'm trying to be entertaining and trying to
Ah,
it's
right.
hard work. And I'm like, I'm just having fun. But for him, it's like effort. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's ingrained in the culture. I'm not that aware of how the Japanese culture is exactly, but as a teenager, I was a huge anime fan. So
Ah,
I used to notice how like people would just like not interact with each other. And in metro, there would be pin drop silence. No one would be interacting with each other. They would go to work and they would just come back with their briefcase and their head down. And maybe if they stop by at like a comic store or something, or I think they also have this PC set up for like if you want to play games for a while. And so there are these cabinets that like separate you from having interaction with any other human being.
yeah, yeah. I think you're talking about you know, manga stores where you
Yes,
can, yeah, manga cafes. Yeah,
yes.
they're quite useful for if you if you go out late at night and you miss your train home, you can go to a manga cafe and sleep there. It's quite
Yeah.
handy because they've got the separate cabinet.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, you're right. There's very much a culture of keeping things separate. So yeah.
Okay, so I know
I
this
think
is a little bit off the topic, but what's like the biggest cultural shock that you have experienced after you started living in Japan?
I think I mean, I don't want to be negative about Japan all the time. I feel like I'm saying some things that are negative, and a lot is wonderful. I mean, obviously I'm
Yeah.
married a Japanese guy. I've got a half
Yeah.
Japanese kid. Obviously there are things I like about the culture. But yeah, I did experience quite severe culture shock when I came
Hmm.
here. Um, for the reasons we've already spoken about, because I felt lonely, because it
Hmm.
was you know, I come from Australia, which is probably not as warm as India, I imagine. I think
Mm-hmm.
people in India seem to be more friendly with
Yeah.
strangers than even, but Australians are friendlier than the Japanese with strangers. So,
Okay.
so like, I'm used to, especially I'm from, not a huge city. I'm a little bit kind of not countryside either, but pretty suburban. And
Okay.
you sort of walk down the streets, and it's quite normal to smile at strangers and maybe even start a conversation with a stranger. And
Yeah.
so I come to Japan and I'm walking down the street like, and I got nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
And that kind of freaked me out. So I
Hmm.
remember feeling quite isolated for the first couple of years.
Hmm. So was it like, is it between the Japanese people as well, or did you feel like it was
Yeah, no,
mostly
it wasn't a
towards you?
racist thing.
Oh, no, not racist. What I'm saying is because a lot of Japanese people are not good at English, so they just avoid the contact altogether rather than experiencing that awkwardness. So that's what I
Yes.
meant. Yeah.
Yeah, you are very well informed, I think. That's absolutely an issue. But no, it's just not standard here. It's not normal to start talking to a stranger unless there's a reason to do it.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And, you know, it's not it's not weird for them in any way. It's just that's
Hmm.
just what's the standard. So, yeah.
Yeah. Indians, I guess, might come off as overly friendly. So whenever I travel in train, if even if you don't know someone, you start talking to them. It like small talk, like where are you from? Where do you work? And then it enters the family discussion phase, and then you exchange phone numbers.
Do
And
you
some
enjoy that or how do you feel about that?
Okay, I personally don't, but my parents do. Like my mom especially loves to engage in conversations with other people on the train. For me, I don't know. I label myself as an ambivert, maybe. Sure, I can have conversations, but a lot of times I just maybe read a book. So that's
Do you sorry, but I'm wondering, do you find like if you've got your book, is that enough of a barrier to stop someone from trying to engage with you, or do they try anyway?
It's a barrier good enough, I would say. Um, but I think, I mean, for Indians, it's like, are you trying to seek attention? Because why are you reading a book? Like, look at me, I'm better than you. I'm reading a book on the train. Very intellectual.
Wow. Well,
So,
you know what? But that's actually an interesting thing because in
yeah.
Japan, maybe you saw an anime. Do you know that they put covers around books quite often?
No,
Like,
I didn't know about this. So that nobody knows what you're reading exactly?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I was not sure. I didn't know about this.
No, but and when I first came here, and I'm like, do you want to cover? Why would I want to cover? I don't understand. And my husband's explaining to me, so people don't know what you're reading. And I'm like, why do I care if they know what I'm reading? And he's saying,
Yeah.
oh, they might think you're showing off, or
Oh.
or they might, or maybe you're reading something you're embarrassed for people to see.
Hmm.
Okay, but yeah, so
Hmm.
interesting.
I'd rather show the book cover because what if I end up meeting someone that has already read the book and we could have an in-depth discussion about the book? So I'd rather show it. But yeah. Anyway,
That's so
so yeah, sorry,
No,
what are
I
you
just
saying,
I
Kate?
just want to say though, when I was your age, I remember that was my big fantasy. I'm going to meet the love of my life. We'll be reading the same book and I'll look up and see this.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to university and I saw a guy reading the same book as me and he was gay. So,
Oh.
it's like it doesn't always work.
Oh my God, I did not even welcome you properly to the session. First of all, welcome to this session. And could you briefly introduce yourself for the audience, please?
Sure. Okay. My name is Pam and I'm an Australian living in Japan. I am an online English teacher and have been working in the industry for like 24 years, I think I calculated it as. So yeah, I started out in Australia and then moved to Japan where my partner and I opened up a group of schools and that was exhausting. So we stopped doing that just a few years ago, and since then I've been mainly doing my business online.
Hmm. Okay, and what exactly got you into teaching? Like, was there any particular moment where you felt like I might go into teaching?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of my childhood had been resisting going into teaching because my
Hmm.
mother was a teacher at the school that I went to, which you can imagine is not fun. And but yeah, I think it was when I went on a holiday by myself in my early 20s.
Hmm.
I went to Indonesia, and I had already been there before as an exchange student, but I went back just a few years later by myself to try and feel like an adult and go traveling and and I just remembered like how much I really, really enjoy trying to, go through the puzzle of communicating across culture and communicating when you don't have the words, but you can find a way to figure out what each other
Yeah,
means. And I thought, oh, well, it sort of fits all of the things that I like doing together
yeah.
is teaching, is that kind of communication. I love the English language. I've always been a bookworm. I I like talking, obviously. So everything sort of fit together. And when I came back from that holiday, I sort of straight away investigated what I would need to do to get the right qualifications for it.
Hmm. Okay, that sounds lovely. Um, and it honestly does feel good when someone comes up to you later and they're like, thank you, it's because of you I was able to clear this exam or that exam. It just, I mean, I wouldn't relate, but assuming that's how it feels because I receive like small comments on YouTube like thank you because of you I got the idea of how to hold conversation or whatever. That makes me feel good, but you're obviously impacting lives of these people in, a more
Well,
intense way.
well, it's interesting though, like I'm doing over the past few years, my
Yeah.
main focus has been on helping people pass an exam
Yeah.
that connects for a lot of them to immigration. And so
Mm-hmm.
that does feel quite powerful because these are people who, you know, really want to, have a new life and it's make or break.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot of pressure because you feel really, really bad for the ones that don't make it. And it's like you
Mm.
really want all of them to get it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be rewarding, but it's also higher stress than, the other teaching that I did, which was more
Mm.
similar to what, you know, your feeling of gratification comes from is that helping people to have a conversation. And
Mm.
honestly, I think that is more meaningful in terms of actual English. The
Mm.
tests,
Yeah.
I I hate tests. I hate the fact that I am training people to just pass a test rather than actually learn English because it's a completely different thing.
Mm.
But but nonetheless, like the tests are necessary and people need that, so I'm kind of happy to be helping them crush the test too. So
Yeah. So you are making their dreams come true, right? Because a lot of people are genuinely desperate to, like you said, start a new life. And they
yeah.
maybe since a kid, they had this dream to be able to live abroad or study abroad or have a job abroad. And they can be clueless. They don't know how to start or because there's also a strategy to attempt the exam, right? And not everybody knows that.
And so many of them, like I'm finding by the time they come to me, most of my students have already attempted the exam 2 or 3 times. And
Hmm.
these are expensive exams and they've gone through different processes and different coaching systems. So,
Yeah.
you know, it, yeah, I really feel for them. I really feel for them.
Yeah. Um, by the way, I went through your YouTube channel and I saw how you focus a lot on natural English. Could you please explain what does natural English mean to you?
You know what? I think it's interesting that I use speak naturally as a kind of catchphrase because I don't even have a clear definition of what natural English is. I don't think
Mhm.
anybody does.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
right? Like it's so what I use it to mean is if you want to come across as friendly and relaxed, then that's the kind of English that you're using.
Mm,
So, there's registers. Sometimes you'll want to come across as professional and businesslike. Sometimes you'll want to come across as, extremely polite. But natural English, I would say, is when you're wanting to be able to make friends,
mm,
that sort of style. So using wanna instead of want to,
mm.
using using idiomatic language like saying no worries instead of
Yeah.
it's not a problem. Like just small changes with the way you use the language
Mm.
can be a little bit dangerous, I think, because it also then means, oh, are we talking about sounding like a native speaker? And if so, what kind of native speaker? And,
Yeah.
it opens up a whole can of worms. But let's face it, most people do want to fit in the society that they live in. So if people are moving to Australia, which I can help them with, and they want to know how to interact in a way that will seem friendly and lower barriers, then natural English, I think, helps with that.
Hmm. And so, in your experience of teaching English for so long, let's discuss the habits, the common patterns that you've noticed among English learners. Let's first discuss the bad habits, something that is making their journey stressful, maybe, or
Hmm.
unnecessarily difficult.
Yeah.
Have you noticed these patterns and what are those patterns?
I mean, well, I thought before we met, and I thought, oh, I wonder what I would say for that. And it's interesting that you mentioned anxiety there because that was the thing that I wanted to raise is
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is the number one problem is when people let their anxiety take over.
Mm,
And that can manifest itself in different ways. Um, you'll have your extroverted students who, when they become anxious, then they will speak too much and they can't stop. They need to fill the silence. And as a result, they'll often make a lot of mistakes and make things
mm,
confusing. You know, and all of that is often just a nervousness.
mm.
But then the introverted students will often then just refuse to take any risk. They don't want to risk the tiniest mistake, so they'll
Yeah.
stay completely silent. And then that means, how do you improve your language if you're never actually using it? That's part of the important process of it, right?
Mm,
So I think just centering yourself and staying calm and remembering that it's just a tool. It's not it doesn't mean anything deep about who you are if you can use English well or use English badly. All it means is that you have had more experience with this tool or less experience with this tool.
mm-hmm,
So if you can put it in perspective, I think that helps a lot.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, about the introverted version that you mentioned, I think I personally felt that way when I was talking to Chinese students.
Ah,
I wasn't teaching or anything, it was just for my YouTube
yeah.
channel. So they speak perfect grammar, but they speak shorter sentences because they are really scared to make grammatical mistakes. So they'd speak perfect, precise sentences, but like they would be to the point and really short.
It's
That's what I
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I find this kind of thing so fascinating. Yeah, like the Japanese, again, very short sentences.
Hmm.
And I think a little bit of it is the actual language.
Yeah.
The original language of Japanese tends to be in shorter sentences too. So there is
Hmm.
that. But but yeah, it's also to do with the education. Maybe you can
Yes.
tell me. I've heard that in India, you grow up with a lot of literature and poetry and this kind of English in the way that you're
Hmm.
taught. Is this true?
Yeah. Wait, is that not how it's taught in other countries? I never, oh my God, I never thought. So we had like Shakespeare plays and Julius Caesar and and
Wow.
we had a lot of poetry, a lot of dramas. So there were like separate sections that we had to study, a lot of novels,
Yeah.
and that's what it was based on. How does it work in other countries?
Well, I don't want to speak for every country.
Yeah,
I haven't got that sort of depth of knowledge, but I will say that, for example, in Japan,
yeah.
there's much more of a mathematical approach to it where it's like mapping the grammar of a sentence and
Mm-hmm.
this is present perfect, that's a past participle, and this goes here and that goes there, and there's a lot of emphasis placed on that. And of course things are changing now,
Yeah.
but the idea of bringing in literature or a story doesn't seem to be very much a part of even what people would feel they're capable of doing, right? They'll sort
Hmm.
of see that as oh, that would be too difficult. So
Okay. So
there's
for
there's a bit.
us, it was like it was grammar heavy when I was, I think, up to like third grade. It was mostly about, like you mentioned, tenses, which I never really understood or never tried to understand. Um, so it was based on that. They would give you a sentence and they would maybe ask you to convert it or like identify what tense it is. Um, we
Really?
studied a lot. Yeah. So, but then I think fourth grade onwards, they started doing these things in parallel. We had a grammar portion and we had literature portion. And then I think by the time I reached seventh grade, the grammar was completely gone and it was just the literature portion up until 12th grade, which was my favorite. I loved that. I enjoyed that so much. And I was so happy that the grammar portion was not in my course anymore. And it's surprising, I mean, that I hated grammar and I never understood it, but I am still able to speak English up to some extent at least. Um, which kind of shows that should you really focus that much on grammar?
Well, I think it's fascinating what you've just told me about
Yeah.
the process that you went through. So I didn't realize that there was such a focus on grammar in the education system.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, India's a big country, but anyway, for you,
Yeah.
that's right. Interesting. Well, look, the way I grew up, in an Australian school for a woman of this age, there was almost no grammar instruction, really, really limited.
Mm.
Um, they told us read books, read books, read books, and they
Yeah.
hoped that we would pick it up. And I kind of did because I read a lot of books because I was an only child or what, I liked reading.
Yeah.
Um, but having said that, I appreciate grammar because I didn't get it in school, like I
Yeah.
didn't have that instruction. And so when I was older and I discovered, oh, that's why this is doing that. And oh, right, now I see
Mm.
why, it all makes sense and it fits together. And now I can control what I'm doing instead of just it feels right, like
Yeah.
I know why. So I tend to believe that grammar is, and when we call it grammar, like you're using, you use grammar if you are just speaking English, right? You have to.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you were talking about analyzing grammar,
Mm.
then I feel like that should come after you've got enough language for it to be meaningful. So,
Mm.
these sort of systems where they try to start out by teaching you grammar, and then when your grammar is good enough, you can move on to the real stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the wrong way around because, then people get stuck on, I can't understand this strange mathematical system, and,
Yeah.
then I don't know how to apply it to communication. So,
Exactly. Wait, that makes so much sense now. No wonder everybody in my class hated grammar because I think by that point, we were not even properly introduced to English language. So I don't think we had anything to relate to. So we would just mug it up and then we would just write it in exams. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I think they should have introduced us to literature. I don't know what the situation is now in schools,
Mm.
but
Just
until
even
that point,
like,
yeah.
but introduce them to conversational English that's written down, perhaps, is a nice starting
Hmm.
point, to bring in the literacy and build it up with simple
Yeah.
situations, and then kids have got enough to work on. Like I'm teaching some Japanese kids now, which is new for me. I'm used to teaching adults, but recently I've started teaching kids, and it's fascinating to see that too, that
Hmm.
they want to know it, right? They really, really want to know English when it becomes about communication. But as soon
Yeah.
as it's about, labeling a grammar pattern, who cares? It doesn't connect to real life for them.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, I mean, as a kid, my mom used to take my tenses lessons, and I absolutely hated that. And she would ask me like, okay, like just fill it in, like what would be the correct grammar sentence. And I'd be speaking the correct grammar sentence and she'd be like, okay, but why? And I wouldn't have an idea. I would be like, I don't know, it just sounds right. And she just never really understood how I got the answers right, but I wouldn't know how. So yeah,
But
that's
that's the best
interesting.
way to be, isn't it? That means that you have internalized it so much. Like, I find, have you heard of the PTE test? Have you heard of the
Okay,
PTE exam?
I have heard of it. I think it's similar to IELTS, maybe, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. I haven't really gotten into the pattern. I don't know what's asked in
No,
PTE.
no, don't worry. But I was just thinking what you're saying there really relates to when I am training students for this particular exam, because
Yeah.
they have to do a part of the test means that they have to fill in the blanks of these
Hmm.
sentences, right? They have to choose which word do I put here.
Yeah.
And because of the way the test is designed, very often the words are really similar. Like you have to choose between should you say large or big or enormous, and you're like, they all mean the same thing. How do I
Yeah.
know what to do?
Hmm.
And it's just because the word after it is one that always goes together with that word.
Hmm.
It just sounds right.
Yeah.
And if even tests are testing us on things that you can't study for, you can't analyze, they're testing us on what feels right, then
Yeah.
I think that tells us that's the direction we all should just go, right? Like, is internalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So can we now discuss the good habits that you are noticing in fast learners that is making you think like, okay, these are the common habits that I'm noticing, which is making their journey interesting and they're learning faster than other students.
Yeah, for sure. I think the fast learners are always chasing the best way to express an idea. So
Hmm.
they don't get stuck down. I'm not speaking correctly. They don't get bogged down on thinking about, uh, like they're not thinking about grammar, they're not thinking about vocabulary, they're not thinking
Hmm.
about it as a kind of English skill. They're just thinking about, I really want to express this idea.
Yeah.
What's the clearest possible way that I can express this that will really have an impact on the other person? And
Hmm.
so when they get in that mindset, that sort of causes them to chase looking for better grammar and looking for better vocabulary without feeling like it's work. It's
Yeah.
just something that becomes an obsession. And I'm kind of big on believing that the only way to really become skilled with something is to become obsessed with it. You
Yeah.
sort of have to love it, right? And
Exactly.
yeah. So, and I mean, clearly you seem to love English, it would seem. Yeah.
Yeah. All credits
What,
go to literature part, honestly.
well, so, and then that's great. Like for you, that was the thing, right? But again, literature is just the input. You've also got the output happening.
Hmm.
So, do you think it was because you wanted to talk to people about the literature, or? you wanted to write about it, or
Um,
where did your output come from?
So the output comes from what I say jokingly, me being schizophrenic in a way. What I mean is that as a teenager, I used to have a lot of conversations with myself in English just because I loved the language and I loved how I sounded. And, I'd have like, I don't know, like Harry Styles interview me and, and in my room. So this is, and
Yes, thank you for the award.
Yes, exactly. So I'd be giving my winning speech or just sharing tips on how I handle fame at the age of 13, by the way. So,
Yeah,
so honestly, all credits go to that because in India, I mean, you don't really talk to your friends in English. They'd be making fun of you, like, what are you doing? Are you trying to be over smart? Like, can you just not talk in Hindi? So, if it's not the official setting, then nobody talks in English. So, I think
right.
I give all these credits to me being, I don't know, delusional or whatever.
Well, yeah, but talking to yourself is a documented way to improve your English,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of, but again, I think if you overthink the method, then it
Hmm.
doesn't work. What you need to do is chase what you love. So
Hmm.
if you're a person who really genuinely enjoys literature, then yes, it's going to be easy for you because that's obviously language soaked. But there are people who love cooking who manage to find a way to make that their English learning journey too, right? Like
Yeah.
they're reading cookbooks in English. They're watching, I don't know, Gordon Ramsay or Nigella Lawson or
Hmm.
whoever you young people watch nowadays. And it's they get that kind of input, but again, as long as they're making sure they get the output as well. And so
Hmm.
that's where I think social media is interesting because, and AI, like I know a lot of us are all like, oh, social media AI, it's bad for
Yeah.
the youth of today. Yeah, there's negatives, but the positives are there too. And
Hmm.
certainly with social media, it's an opportunity that people have never had in the history of the world to be able to immediately connect with someone from another country and communicate with them. And
Yeah.
usually you're going to be using English to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Makes sense. And okay, so one thing that I would like to ask you, I'm not talking about the accent. I'm talking about the way non-native English speakers talk, something that maybe sounds too textbook to you or unnatural. Like, what is it about them that gives it away? Like, yes, this is a non-native English speaker talking.
Okay, that's an interesting question. I mean, honestly, I generally try not to even think like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
um I think there should be more emphasis put on the the listener putting a bit of effort into trying to work out what the speaker is saying. If
Yeah.
if the listener is a native speaker, they should put in at least 50%, but more than, and very often it's not enough. So, but okay, for people who might be watching this, and if they do genuinely want to improve their clarity, then I think syllable stress
Mm-hmm.
is probably the most confusing thing, the thing that makes it hardest to understand what someone is saying. If they say, like I put my emphasis on the wrong syllable instead of I put
Hmm.
my emphasis on the wrong syllable, if
Yeah.
they mix it up, then that that can make things difficult. That's hard to learn though. That's why again I think it usually works better if you just pick it up organically by
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
shadowing. Shadowing helps, listening and repeating. But what's the thing that native speakers often do? I would say it's mainly the rhythm, right? Like
Yeah.
English is a stressed, timed language. we tend to put stress on the key words, and a lot of languages don't. It's a lot more evenly stressed. So,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know about Indian languages. Is Hindi evenly stressed, or do you put stress on certain words?
Mm, it might be more evenly stressed than English for sure, but I never really paid attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either until I had to
Hmm.
study it to do this. But I know, I mean, again, I know more about Japanese, and
Yeah.
Japanese is very much da, 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 it sounds like a machine gun. And but Italian too. Italian is you know, da 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 da. It's an
Hmm.
even stress. Whereas English, you can say a sentence that's this long and a sentence that's this long. And
Yeah.
if it has the same number of keywords in it, then it will take
Hmm.
the same time to say it. So
Hmm.
that's just the way English works. So if people want to sound natural, then the number one tell is to be able to put the stress on the keywords and swallow the for to, I went to the
Hmm.
shop, not I went to the shop, that kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah. Okay, we have less than 1 minute remaining because I'm on
That's
Zoom
right.
free. I am so sorry, but it was really nice connecting with you, Pam. I genuinely loved talking to you.
Yeah, really lovely to talk to you too, Niyati,
Yeah,
and good on you with your channel. I think it's a great
thank
idea.
you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
bye
See
bye.
you.